But if you could turn this $100 bill into $2.62 million, I think that'd make my day. What about you? That's right, I'm gonna show you how you can turn this $100 bill into a really large number. It starts with a 2, there's some commas and a lot of zeros. That's right, it's $2.62 million. Yes, it's crazy, but it's still awesome. And we're gonna go ahead and get started right now. What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel, Wealth Hacker Labs. I'm your grateful host, Jeff Rose, and we're gonna talk about something that I love to talk about. And we're gonna talk about some money.
I like money.
More importantly, some tax-free money. That's right, tax-free money. And we're gonna get to, what are we talking about with this whole $100 growing to $2.62 million? We're gonna break all that down right now. So let's go ahead and get started. So yes, I'm talking about the $2.62 million Roth IRA. And if you are new to the channel, go ahead and do what you do, subscribe, all that good stuff, because I've got more great content coming to you. And you'll also know, if you haven't subscribed yet, or I'm sorry, if you are a subscriber, I love me some Roth IRA. I mean, I am in love with the Roth IRA. And there are a few reasons why. Actually, there's several reasons why, but we're gonna just break down a few right quick. But before we break that down, we are going to get to, how do you turn $100, a $100 bill into $2,620,943? We're going to answer that. But before we answer that, we gotta talk about why this Roth IRA is so awesome. I'm also going to address what are the common questions that you all have about this said Roth IRA. So with the Roth, so there are two reasons why I love the Roth. There may be more reasons why you love the Roth, but two in particular that I want to highlight before we get down into this growing $100 to $2.62 million. All right, so the first reason why is no taxes. Paying no tax on a Roth IRA. No taxes.
Yes! Yes!
That is a big deal. That's a huge deal. No taxes. In case you didn't hear me the first time, here it is again. I mean, as we say, read my lips. You see those? Read them. Read them. What are they saying? They're saying tax-free. Tax-free, that's what they're saying. So with the Roth IRA, you put money in, it grows. When you go to take it out at retirement, you pay zero tax on it. That is a big deal. And that is one ginormous reason why you should love the Roth IRA. Tax-free money. Now, the second reason is about control. Now, I don't know how you are. I'm a bit of a control freak. I'll go ahead and I'll call myself out. I like to be in control. I like things to be the way that I want them. And the Roth IRA provides that comfort because you are in control of what you put your money into. That means that you can say, which investments do you want? Where do you want your money to go? Do you want to buy individual stocks? Do you want to buy mutual funds? Do you want to buy ETFs? Whatever that is, the Roth IRA provides that. And that is a big deal. And this is a big difference than a more common investment vehicle that people utilize with the 401k. With the 401k, you don't have as much control. Typically, with the 401k, you're gonna have, on average, about 10 to 15 different investment choices, which are predominantly mutual funds or ETFs. But 10 to 15 is all you're going to have with a 401k. Compare that to a Roth IRA, and this is why I love the Roth. A little bit more about me, in case you don't know. I absolutely love buffets. I love me a good buffet, and the reason I love a buffet is because when I go to a buffet, I get to choose what goes on my plate. I'm in control of if I want some more General Tso's chicken, if I want some more prime rib, if I want some fried chicken, whatever it is, I get to decide. And on top of that, there are tons of choices. I love choices. I love control. The Roth IRA is your buffet. That is what this is. The Roth IRA is your buffet because you can choose. You have this huge menu of options with the Roth, and that's why I love it. As opposed to 401k. Typically a 401k, you when you sign up, the employer gives you a very short, small menu to choose from. As I said earlier, 10 to 15 different choices, and then from there you choose. And that's not horrible because if you had 100 choices, it might be overwhelming. Nonetheless, if you want control, if you want more choices, that is where the Roth wins, no question. Some of the more common questions that I get with the Roth is, number one, how much can you put in? How much money can you put into a Roth IRA? So with the Roth, it is, here's actually some numbers here. This is for 2021. If you are under the age of 50, so 49 and under, you can put in $6,000 per year. $6,000 per year. So that is right here. If you're over the age of 50, you are allowed what's called a catch-up contribution, which basically means is that you can add an additional $1,000 for this total of $7,000. Now, how this works is you can write a one-time check if you want. If you want to write a check one time for $6,000 or $7,000, depending on which one you qualify for, you can do that. If you want to do it every single month, not 6,000 a month, but you want to take 6,000 divided by 12 and do that every single month, you can do that as well. If you want to break this down into 6 equal payments, you can do that. However you want to do it, that is your choice. So you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to do it in 3 equal installments, however you want to do it. And also, you don't have to do the 6,000. That's completely your choice. That is just the most that you can put in is the $6,000. And what this is referred to as, it's as a contribution. They call this a contribution because you are contributing your money into that. So that's how much you can contribute each year. As you can kind of see there, in 2020, it didn't increase. Actually, the last few years hasn't increased, but 2018, it was $5,500. And generally there has been an increase. I think just with the latest pandemic and everything that shut down, the IRS didn't increase that. But typically I think when I first started, it was 3,000. Before that, I think it was 2,000. So it has increased over the years. Here's some other fun facts about the Roth that many people don't know. So with the Roth, how the IRS perceives the Roth, it is tied to your Social Security number. So whenever I write here, only one Roth IRA per person, as far as the IRS is concerned, you have one Roth IRA. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't open multiple accounts at different brokerages or custodians or investment platforms. So you can do that, but that doesn't mean that you can open, I'll give an example. So if you have a Fidelity account and you have a Vanguard account, you can't do $6,000 here and $6,000 here. Like the IRS is smarter than that, right? So you could do 3,000 at Fidelity and 3,000 at Vanguard. Like that's okay. You can do that. And the other thing though to keep in mind is that Vanguard and Fidelity don't communicate. They don't say, hey, by the way, John over here, he already put in 5,000 into his Fidelity Roth IRA. Let him know he can only do another 1,000 over with you, Vanguard. If John wants to put in 5,000 at Fidelity and think he can be sneaky and put in another 5,000 or 6,000 at Vanguard, Vanguard will accept that deposit. So they will accept it, but at the end of the year, whenever you're doing your taxes, the IRS is gonna find out that you over contributed, and they're going to make you pull that money out. And there could be a penalty associated with that. So don't think that you're smarter than the IRS. So you can have multiple accounts, you just can't exceed that $6,000 per year. Now, if your spouse, if you are married, your spouse can also open a Roth IRA, and they can put in that same amount as well. And they don't even have to have any income to do that. So that's another fun fact to know about the Roth. So those are some fun facts. Now, the other thing here, and this is also very important, the deadline is typically April the 15th or whatever the day that your taxes are due. Now, I think in this year, the IRS did extend that, and that was kind of a unique situation with the pandemic and everything that was going on. So they extended that deadline, but typically it's April 15th or whatever the tax deadline is. So if April 15th is on a Sunday, chances are it might be that Monday that the deadline is. So at the time of this recording, it is 2021. So that means I have until April 15th of 2022 to make that contribution for 2021. So you get a full year plus January, February, March, April the 15th to max out your Roth IRA. So they give you a bit of time. If you do make that contribution in the new year, so if I wait until next year, I do need to let wherever my IRA is open, hey, I don't want this to count towards 2022. I want this to count towards 2021. And this is called a recharacterization. So you just need to let them know how to characterize that and just say, hey, I know this is the new year. I just want to make sure I'm contributing this for last year. As long as you let them know that, that is okay. The other piece of this I have to share, because this is a big deal. This deadline. The IRS doesn't care if you miss. IRS don't care. And let me give you a very, 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 very specific example of what I am talking about here. So this was a previous client. This is several years ago. And this client wanted to max out their IRA, the Roth IRA for the year. And they were one of these people that they waited until the last minute. It literally was like the day, the last day, whatever April 15th was, like that year. They came into the office, wrote a check to max it out. We sent it off. Our back office received it. It was time-stamped and dated, like they got it in before the deadline. So they made it. Woohoo! Yay! They made it. Yay! Comes back that they didn't have enough money in their account for the check to clear, so the check bounced. They then asked me, hey, we have the money now, like it cleared. Can we go ahead and write another check so that we can make sure we get in our contribution for last year, because we really want to do it? And my response was, no, you can't. You missed it. You missed the deadline. The IRS doesn't care that your check didn't clear. Like, that ain't their problem. They don't care. So make sure that you don't wait to the last minute. Make sure the check clears. And the funny thing about the wrap up that story was, since the client already had the money freed up, I asked him, hey, since you already got this money now, why don't we go ahead and deposit it, and we'll go ahead and take care of this year today, so that we don't have to wait until next year and this happens again. And of course, this client recognized how amazing and smart that I was and respected my recommendation, and they did that. They deposited that money and they took care of it. So they didn't have to wait till the end of the year. No, that is not true at all. No, the client did not listen to me. They said, oh, no, we'll just go ahead and take care of it next year. I mean, what's the big deal? Well, that won't happen again. All right, whatever. They ended up not becoming my client after a while, and that was not a bad thing. All right, just to kind of sum that up, IRS does not care if you don't have the money ready. They don't care if you miss the deadline. That is on you. How much we can put in, we've addressed that. Now we're talking about, how do you get kicked out? How do you get kicked out of the Roth IRA club? Well, it is one of those, we'll call it good problems to have. So the IRS has what's called a phase-out limit. Basically means what happens if you start making too much money. So sad, so sad. Now, there are a few different income limits. I'm gonna share this is the one if you are married filing joint. So right here, if you can see, this is $198,000. So if you make $198,000 or below, you can play in the Roth IRA all day long. You do not get kicked out of the club. If you make more than $208,000, so sad, too sad, you cannot contribute to the Roth. You are kicked out. There is this thing here called, here's like the phase out. This in between is where you start getting a reduced amount. So you can't do the full 6,000 if you want to do that. But if you are somewhere in here, you could contribute, say, 5,000, maybe 4,000 or 3,000, depending on what your income limit is. What I also want to share here, before I give this other example, the thing that I want to remind you of, this is MAGI, and this is important. MAGI stands for Modified Adjusted Gross Income. So going back to this slide real quick, this is $198,000 of modified adjusted gross income. So this is after all your expenses, after all your deductions, after all your credits. So this is not your gross income. And I've had a few examples where somebody was taking advantage of a 401k at their job. They had made too much money for the Roth, but because they were putting money in their 401k, which was pre-tax, and they were able to deduct that then got them below this 198 level, and then they could participate in the Roth. So, I mean, these people were super savers. Awesome. Good for them. And because of that, they could take advantage of the Roth by putting that in the 401k. So that is just one little thing to know with the Roth, is that this is modified adjusted gross income. Not gross, modified adjusted gross. Okay, so let's look at an example here. That previous example, we were looking at if you are married, you've got a spouse, how that works. Well, what if you are single and you potentially make too much? So what are the phase out limits if you are single? So if you are single, you can make up to $125,000. Once you surpass the 125, you no longer play in the Roth IRA, or at least at a reduced amount. So if you make more than 140, this is where you are kicked out. As a reminder, this is modified adjusted gross income. So what happens if you are in this in between? How does it work? How does the phase out limit work? If you can, some quick math here, there is a $15,000 gap in between 125 to 140. If you make, let's say, $7,500 over that base amount, that 125. So if you're making $132,250, so that basically that 7,500 is 50% of this gap, of this phase out. That means that you can only put in 50% of what the contribution limit is. If the contribution is $6,000 and you are at 50%, that means you can only put in $3,000. So at least you can put in $3,000. Like, that is a good thing. And I just realized you can't see me because I'm blocking myself. So you can put in $3,000. So that's good. Like, you can participate. I will say that I've been kicked out of the Roth IRA party for at least 11 or 12 years. So it's been a while since I've been able to put new money into the Roth. But the cool thing is, because I have control, because I selected the investments, which right now are predominantly individual stocks, that my Roth has continued to grow, which is awesome. So that is how phase out limits work. So now the next question is, when do you get your money? It's like, all right, Jeff, I'm sold. You got me. I'm intrigued here. I like the Roth. I like this whole tax-free money thing. I like having control. It sounds like I meet these phase out limits, but I do have some concerns. I do have some reservations because I want to know if I put my money in, when do I get it? When do I get access? And that is a big deal. It was a big deal for me, and I'm sure is a big deal for you. So how does that work? When do you get access to your money? And now here is another reason though why the Roth IRA is so awesome. Another Roth IRA fun fact, and this is a super fun fact. You always have access to your contributions. Always have access to the money that you put in. That is a big deal. Most people don't realize that. They think this is a retirement account and it has to stay, until you retire. And that is partially true. The money that grows, your interest, your dividends, your profit, that does have to stay until you retire. But the money that you put in, you have access to that at any time. So how does that work? What does that look like? So let's say that you opened a Roth and you put $1,000 in. And with that, you bought some Tesla stock. And it was a good time. Tesla, let's say you timed it right. Now it's let's just say 2 years later, that $1,000 has grown to be $4,000. That's a good, nice little profit. So how this works is the $1,000, you can take that out. Take it right now. You can take it now, you can take it later. You would have to sell off some of the Tesla stock to get that $1,000, but you can take that out. The $3,000 gain, that's what has to stay. That's what has to stay until retirement. Have access to what you put in, the $1,000. You can take out the gain. The gain has to stay in until you actually retire. That is a fun fact. So that's why the way I've always looked at a Roth IRA is like a savings account on steroids, because you have access to your money whenever you want. Like, that is huge. Now, one thing I do want to stress, the example that I just shared was an example of you buying something that actually went up. So what if you bought $1,000 and you decided to buy some Coinbase stock? I may have done this. That's why I'm bringing this up. So you put $1,000 in, you buy Coinbase on the day it IPO'd, and now your Coinbase stock, your investment is only worth $500. So the question now is, can you go back to the IRS or to your Roth IRA and take that $1,000? Is that possible? The answer is no, you can't. There is no take backs. There is no, oh, I didn't really mean to buy that. That was an accident. The only thing that you can pull out is the 500. So that's what you have access to. So you need to know that. Also too, there is no such thing as a capital loss in a Roth. You don't get to deduct that from your taxes. That also is a good thing to know. So you got access to your money at any time. It's the profit that has to stay. So that is a big deal. So what exactly is normal retirement age? So normal retirement age is 59 and a half. So that is when you can take out that money for retirement. If you do decide to take that out before 59 and a half, you are looking at a 10% penalty. So this is called an early withdrawal penalty. So 10%, and you're gonna have to pay whatever your tax rate is. So if you're the 25% tax bracket, you'd have to pay 10% penalty plus 25%. I know that is completely illegible, and that's okay. So looking at 35% if you do take that before 59 and a half. So that is what the IRS has deemed as normal retirement age. I have no idea why they do half years. That's for another discussion, but this is normal retirement age. There is one exception to that rule. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this, but I just want you to be aware. There is this Roth IRA 5-year rule. This only applies if you are older and if you're just opening a Roth for the first time and let's say you're 57 years old, the IRS says that you have to leave it in that Roth for at least 5 years before you can take out that profit. Otherwise, you're looking at tax and penalty. Now, if you're younger watching this, don't even just whatever I just said, just delete it. Doesn't apply to you. But if you're watching this and you are older, you still have access to those contributions, the money you put in, but the gain, the profit, the interest, the dividends, all that has to stay in for at least 5 years. So if you, once again, if you're 57, you can't pull out that profit at 59 and a half. You have to wait till you're at least 52 before you get that. So put that out there. Make sure you know. If you want more information, you can search for Roth IRA 5-year rule to see how that works. All right, so that is when you get your money. So now, the last question, and this is another one that is very confusing for a lot of people, is how much will you make inside a Roth? How much does it pay? What is the interest rate? What is the rate of return? And the reason why I see this a lot is because often my experience has been when people go to a bank, they go to their bank, whether they're making a deposit or whatever they're doing, they'll see these advertised IRA rates. And I don't know why they do this, but when they see this, it says, oh, their Roth IRA is paying 3%, 2%, whatever it is. What people don't realize is that the Roth IRA is not an investment. It is an investment vehicle. What the bank is showing is not their Roth IRA rates. What they're showing typically is it's their CD rates or their savings account rates, or it's their passbook savings or money market rates. That's what they're showing. They just say, hey, this is what our Roth IRA is paying. What they're really saying is our CD rates are paying this. So if you want to buy a CD and put that into a Roth IRA, here's how much you're going to make for whatever period. So that is what determines how much you make. But going back to at the beginning of having control and having a choice on what you're putting your money into. And I apologize about this if you have a phobia of clowns, because I do. Clowns freak me out. When I start wrapping my head around, with the Roth IRA and choosing, the Roth IRA is not an investment, it's an investment vehicle, hence the yellow Volkswagen here. The way that I've wrapped my head around it is if you think of the Roth IRA as an investment vehicle and then you decide the passengers that go inside of that Roth IRA. And why I have the clowns here is because anytime I think of this analogy, I think of going to the circus. And if you've never been to a circus, you might have to do a quick little search for this, but you have the clown car. And with this clown car is this small car, usually about the size of a Volkswagen or even smaller. And all of a sudden you got 10 or 15 different clowns coming out of it. I don't know how they do it. To this day, I still don't know how they do it. I don't know if I even want to know. But I always think of that those clowns coming out of this vehicle, in this case, the clowns being your investments that you're choosing and the Roth IRA being that vehicle. So you are in control of the passengers that go inside the Roth. You get to choose your passengers. So with the passengers, you can choose if you want to do CDs, you can do that. If you want to buy or just put it into a savings account, you can do that. If you want to put it into bonds, you can do that. If you want to buy a fixed annuity, don't know why you would, but you could do that. On top of that, if you want to do individual stocks, like we talked about Tesla, I own Facebook stock. I also own Coinbase. That's for another day. So you can buy individual stocks. You can do mutual funds, ETFs. So if you want to buy GLD, which is the gold ETF, you can do that. If you want to buy a triple inverse ETF, you can do that inside of the Roth. And this just goes back to why I love it so much, why I love control, why I love that you decide the passengers that go inside of the Roth. And whatever passenger that you choose is going to determine how much are you going to make. What is going to be your rate of return or your return on investment. That's what ultimately decides how much the Roth IRA makes. So if you buy Tesla stock at the right time, your Roth IRA could make 567%. You get the point? I think you get the point. So that's how it works. So let's go ahead and break this down. Going back to the beginning, at the beginning of this video, we talked about this $100 growing into 2.62 million. And on top of it, it being tax-free since, I gotta work this out, since you are in a Roth. So how does this work? So this is what it looks like. So let's say you've got $100 to start and you are 19 years of age and you decide you start with 100 and then you start putting in $3,000 a year, which could be $250 a month. You do that up until the age of 65 and you average 10% return. You will have accumulated $2,620,943. Starting off with 100, adding $3,000 a year can grow to $2.62 million. Now, what makes this even more powerful is look how much of your money you put in. How much of your own money did you put in? Over that time frame, you put in $138,000 of your own money, of your own contributions, and your profit is over $2.4 to almost $2.5 million. That's legit. Like when I saw this, when I discovered this, this is what really solidified me investing for myself and investing into a Roth. Like this is when I really started to crank it up and put money in. But hold on. It gets better. That's right. It gets even better. How could it get even better? Well, this is how. Same thing. Let's say you start with 100, but instead of doing the $3,000 a year, you are increasing this by $166 a month for a total of $5,000 a year. Same time frame, same rate of return. Now we're looking at a grand total of $4.3 million, $4,362,892. And once again, the amount that you put in, 230 of your own money. So 230,000 that you've put in grew to be 4.3, almost double of what we saw previously, just by increasing this $166 per month. Now, there are a few things here. You know, we could sit here, and one of the things I'll often hear people say is, well, yeah, but I'm not 19. Okay, so how old are you? How old you are, start. So let's just knock that one out. The second one is, but you're making 10% return. You know, the market's only average 8%. So like that is just not right. And what if it doesn't go up as much? Like, that's fine. I hear you. And my answer to that is, you know, if I'm wrong, because like I have people want to say like, oh, you're wrong. That's not gonna work that way. So what if I am wrong? And instead of having 4.3 million or 2.62 million, what if you only have 750K? Or even worse, what if you put in that 130,000 and it only doubled? Now you only have $260,000. Are we really crying? Are we really unhappy? Are we really sad that we put money in and it doubled? Like, if I am wrong, great. At least you saved, at least you invested for yourself. At least that whatever you put your money into, as long as it was preferably not savings or a CD or a fixed annuity. I mean, even then it's gonna be worth a little bit more, but putting it into the market some way, somehow, buying an S&P 500 index fund or whatever, at least it grew and it's worth more than it was than when you started. For those that want to say that I'm wrong, that's my response. At least you saved, at least you invested, because most people don't, because they don't have an understanding, because they don't know how it works, and because they don't have the patience. So the last thing that many people want after hearing all this is, okay, I'm in. Where do I go? Where do I start? And that is an entirely different video, which is coming. The only way to find out when that publishes is to subscribe, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. But for now, I do have a resource on my blog, goodfinancialsense.com. And if you go there and if you click on the retirement tab there, you will find in the drop down this article, which is the best places to open a Roth IRA. So in this post, in this article, we break down all the different options that exist out there and what is going to be the best option for you, depending on what passengers do you want to choose? How much control do you want to have in choosing those investments? We break that down in showing you which options are going to be the best suited depending on, once again, what are you trying to achieve? What are your goals? And also, how comfortable are you? So go there. If you don't want to go there, check in the description. I'll have a link to this post. I'll actually have a link to this in the first comment as well, so that you can go check this resource out. Is that it? I think that's it. That is it. That is it. So that concludes talking about this $2.62 million Roth IRA. It all starts with $100. It all starts with investing. Getting started, investing in yourself. I would prefer that you do the Roth. The Roth is a part of the wealth stack, which I think is a crucial package that you need if you want to achieve wealth, if you want to achieve financial independence. The Roth is a key part of it. But the only way that takes part is you got to go open it. You got to start investing. So that all starts with you. All right, y'all. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, I already said it. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, this is Jeff Rose reminding you that it's your money, it's your life, and only you can make it awesome. Until then, peace.